Okay, this was a pretty great episode. Season 2, episode 13 of the Charmed Reboot. I was pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed it, but I was also kind of annoyed. Hey everybody, welcome back to The Turnout. I am your host, Aloy. Don't forget to check out usaaudiences.com for special event and movie screening invites. And today we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about this episode 13. This video is a little bit later than I like. I apologize for that. I've been a little bit under the weather. But for me, episode 13, it's called Breaking the Cycle. I actually really liked parts of it. It has two main storylines. One with Harry and Abigail, which I am super happy about that they actually said Bagheri in the episode.
What, you think I'm in it for the white picket fence and brood of little Abigairis?
It is officially Bagheri. I know that a lot of people have been saying Harabel, and I've been like, I don't know if Harabel works for me, but they said Bagheri in the freaking episode. I'm just saying, it's like hashtag Bagheri, it's official. But also, the second one was the first episode where the three sisters finally actually spent like the whole episode together, even if they were forced into it. So before we jump into that, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification. There will be spoilers, so spoiler alert. So first, let's talk about Bagheri. So the main crux of this story is that Harry gets visited by his Darklighter in his dreams. They finally have realized that he's not dead, but why is he reaching out now? So he gives Harry kind of a vision, like, come and meet me at this place. Maggie has a vision and says, I don't know if you should go. But he's like, well, I mean, I'm gonna go anyway. But he says, the charmed ones, you shouldn't come. I don't think it's going to be safe. I think it's gonna be a trap. So you three stay here. And instead he goes to Abigail to ask for her help. And you know what? She was like indignant and kind of had an attitude about it. And I was on board for it. She's like, oh, what else do you need now? Like, you all just treating me like I'm just here just to be your tool to use whenever you need it. And it was very annoying. Like, I felt it in her voice, and I was like, yes, very much justified. He's like, oh, I need you to come help me because we're gonna meet him, and just in case, I need you to kill me to kill him. And she's like, no. But, and what he says like the corniest line ever.
I trust them with my life, but I trust you with my death.
And I think it's corny in just the right Harry way. Like, it's exactly something Harry would say, even if it's like one of the dumbest lines ever. But with that in mind, they go to the location to meet the Darklighter. They find a whole town is frozen, which was really actually kind of interesting. They find a van with magic detecting equipment. They find this little girl who is also a witch, and she was the one responsible for freezing the whole town. In the end, they encounter a group of the true believers who are going around and rounding up all of these magical people, and they wanted this little girl who could freeze entire towns and didn't even know about it. And the episode ends with Harry and Dark Harry in a vision again, and him saying, you wanted me to see that they're rounding up these people. And he's like, yes, I want you to see why. And he's like, yeah, they're rounding them up because they're all magical and to take their powers. And he's like, yes, so I need you to come and save me from them. If you destroy this thing that controls me, then I don't have to work for them anymore. And he's like, why would I do that? And he's just like, what are you, dumb?
Because I know what's coming. And if you want any chance of stopping it, you're gonna have to set me free.
So anyway, now it's interesting that now there is the whole charmed ones versus the true believers, and now instead of trying to defeat Dark Harry, the goal is now to go and save Dark Harry. So that's actually an interesting twist that I really kind of dug, though I didn't like the way that they talked Abigail into working with Harry, because she's like, well, what I want in return is one night alone with you. And I'm just like, oh, girl, give it up. It's really kind of annoying. He obviously wants her, but he's obviously playing games and not wanting to get with her. And you know what? She deserves more, and she needs to go and try and be with somebody who actually wants her. And it's very annoying to see how hard she is fighting and how little he kind of cares. Now we go to the Charmed Ones, and they are trying to find anything that they can in order to see if they can figure out what's Black Amber, how do they get their powers back. And wouldn't you know it, they all went to the Book of Elders at one time, and they all touched the book at the same time.
Oh, what did we do now?
Nothing, we just touched the book.
All three of us did. It's the first time that's happened.
Why has that never happened? Because they've almost never been in the same room at the same time for any reason. So at no point have they ever all touched the book at the same time. Because once they did, all these secret pages pop out of the book, and they see all the names of all the different Charmed Ones that came before them. And I liked the reveal of the fact that they are, like, they're the Charmed Ones right now, but they are not the Charmed Ones because they're just a group of Charmed Ones. There have been previous Charmed Ones, which I think is actually something new in the lore. I don't remember that being a thing in the original. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure all of you will. But in the book, there are always three names, and the third name is always in red. And I thought that was kind of interesting as well. That means that whichever the third one is probably ended up dying. That's what red means in most contexts whenever you're writing it. But what ends up happening is that the command center goes into lockdown mode and traps them in like this light cage that if they touch any of the lights, they will just die, and it keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And they get this clue that they must speak the unspoken. And they finally come to the realization that they have to state something out loud that they are denying to themselves, because they try to just share all of their secrets about each other. Even the fact that Parker's still alive, and that was something that might come into contention when it comes to Macy and Maggie later on, we'll see. It doesn't really seem like it's going in that direction, but each of them had to like state something that like they are just, it's hurting them inside. And I thought that the three realizations were pretty good. Maggie's is that she's a horrible person.
It's almost easier when it just all went away. So you don't have to keep horrible things and horrible people from me anymore. Turns out I'm pretty horrible myself.
So anybody on my Maggie is a terrible person video who was telling me, no, she's really good, even Maggie now has admitted that she's terrible. And you know what? And her part of the charm symbol only popped up after she said, I am horrible. But obviously in context, she was saying she's horrible because when she heard Parker died, she actually felt relieved. And that's honestly a big deal for her. Mel says she doesn't want all of the responsibility that she has, and that she wishes that she didn't need to be this person for the group of sisters, which is interesting because I don't think anybody ever asked her to do that. And I feel like every time she has done that, they have sufficiently pushed back on her and said, hey Mel, stop that. So the idea that she continuously just feels she needs to do it, that sounds like that's more her thing. And Macys Secret was, I think, the best one, and it was that when she lost her powers, she was actually kind of hopeful that they wouldn't get them back. That's good. That's good. That's good character progression, I think, for her. Especially with somebody who has been obsessing with getting her powers back. She's realizing that, like, actually, I'd be way more relieved if we just didn't have powers. But what all of this does is it opens up the ability for them to finally get to the tree that has all the black amber and everything, and they're like, we can get our powers back. But then they're visited by one of the past Charms ones, a spirit of her, and she said, you all have to realize who you are individually before you can reclaim the power of the Charmed Ones. Which I thought was a little bit weird in the writing, because that's what they just did, right? Like, they just kind of came to these individual conclusions about themselves. They all have been on their own individual kind of paths this whole season, and I was thinking this was finally them coming together, but now it's, no, you're all together, but now you can't come back actually together until you do more things apart, and I'm like, oh god. But in the end, Macy does get her powers back, and it ends in a kind of triumphant kind of way, which I kind of dug. So this episode as a whole, I think this is a great kind of bridging episode. It's building up to something that might be happening huge in the next episode, especially if now all three sisters have their powers, and they'll now use those powers to go save Darklighter, who was once their enemy. So I think it's going to be really interesting, but I want to know what you guys think down in the comments. Let me know. How mad are you that it's not Harabelle, and now that it's officially Abigail? Otherwise, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification. And I have been your host, Aloy. This has been The Turnout. Thanks for showing up.